we saw an epic game last night with the Flyers 2-0 lead to start it off.
Steve Mason really stole a win for the Flyers.
He played amazing. And in total, with the overtime and the shootout, Pete, 55 saves. I mean, he had 9 saves or 8 saves in the extra period, shootout there. And Brian Boucher was right there between the benches. And I'd love to get his perspective, of course, the former Flyers goalie. You see that, Bouch. What is it like being in that shootout, number one? I mean, as a goaltender, that's not the easiest thing, but those guys made it look easy. That's what made it exciting, wasn't that they kept going back and forth goal for goal. It was they kept going back and forth stone for stone.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And as a goaltender, it can be a nerve-wracking time, especially if you don't have a ton of success in the shootout. And I think that's been the case for the Flyers and Steve Mason, over the last couple of years. But give him credit; he was great all night long. It wasn't just in the shootout; he was great all through regulation. The Bruins kept coming in waves there. Eventually, they were able to get at him. But in the shootout, I thought he did a great job of refocusing and coming up huge in a critical time.
Bouch, I was saying to Mike before you came on, the great win for the Flyers, a thrilling win for the fans. The one thing that maybe doesn't get addressed there, though, is that's another blown third-period lead. You were right there, bird-side view, right rink-side view to see what was good and bad about the Flyers. What takeaway do you take from that team now, and why do you think they're blowing these leads that they have?
Well, if you want to look at things as a glass half full, you'd say, we were resilient. The Bruins were playing hard. They came at us. It's never going to be a perfect over 60 minutes. You're going to have to deal with adversity throughout the course of a game, yet we were able to stick with it and get a victory. So that's the glass half full. The glass half empty says, we got a 2-0 lead going into the third period. Even though the Bruins are throwing a lot of pucks on net, we got to find a way to lock this down. And I think that's part of the consistency issues that are popping up for the Flyers, and Dave Haxtell alluded to that to me in the morning, that they haven't been consistent enough, not from game to game, but from shift to shift. And inside the 60 minutes of the game, they seem to have letdowns. And, sometimes that's a confidence thing. Sometimes, it can be the case of you're trying to, find that cohesiveness as a team, and they're missing one of their key guys, their best defensive forwards, in Sean Couturier right now. So maybe there's something to say for that. They got a young defense. Gostisbehere's only in his second season. Provorov's a young star in the making, but he is only 19 years old. So there is some growing pains. And in truth be told, their goaltending has not been where it needs to be, at the start of the season. Although Mason was fantastic last night, it hasn't been the best all year long. So they're 20-something games into the season. It's a small sample size in the big picture. Hopefully the Flyers can build off of a big victory like that, because it was a big victory.
You touched on something there. The goaltending maybe hasn't been the best that they thought. Does that surprise you? You got two guys that are basically, I think they're in contract years, if I'm not mistaken, or guys that you would expect to be a 1 and a 1A. I'll look forward to your perspective on why you think they're struggling, and then maybe the second half of that is Anthony Stolarz, your impressions of him.
Well, I'll address the two main guys. Neuvert, frustrating because, he can't stay healthy, and this has been his MO his whole career, where he cannot find a way to stay healthy, and that's why he's never really been a number one goaltender in the National Hockey League. And once again, he's hurt. So he played great last year. Hasn't played great this year, and not being healthy is not going to help his cause. With regards to Mason, I'm a little bit shocked that he hasn't played better than he has at the start of the season, mainly because it is a contract year, and I think both of these guys are playing for a longer-term deal and to be the Flyers' main guy. So I was a little bit shocked that Mason struggled at the start of the year, but I'm not just going to judge him on what the start of the year was. He's come in some key situations where he came in. I believe it was the Minnesota game in relief of Neuvert. I thought he did a great job of coming in that game. And last night I think was a building block for him. These are moments in a season that can really catapult you going forward. So hopefully for Mason, better days are ahead. And that was an encouraging game last night. and maybe we'll forget about how rough the start really was for Mason and the goaltending. We'll see what Neuvert does when he gets back. And as far as Stolarz, I thought he did a great job. Not an easy situation, your first NHL start. There's a lot of nerves, and expectedly you're not going to be, 100% sharp. I think, you're going to show some jitters, and I think he did. At times he left some juicy rebounds. The first one was one that snuck through him. He had a little bit of help from his D, clearing pucks away, but he did make some good saves as well. And he's a big guy that has good athleticism. We'll see how it all transpires for him going down the road, but it's always nice to get that first start and your first win because you don't want to be chasing that first win.
Talking with Brian Boucher, former Flyers goalie, NBC Sports, part of the broadcast team last night. And Bouch, while we're on the topic of the goalies, you could speak upon this better than pretty much anybody because it's seemingly you were constantly getting shuffled in and out and never had that opportunity to really just say, hey, you're going to go play 68 games this year. Go have a blast. Do you think that is tough on both Mason and Neuvert, that they really don't know how many games in a row they're going to get and what kind of rhythm they can get in? Do you think they would be better off just saying, Mason, you're the guy. Go play 60 games. Have a blast.
Yeah, it's always better to have that situation, but you got to earn that. You got to earn that right. And in my career, I never earned it. There was always times when I had slip-ups in my play and didn't deserve to have that, 60, 65 games where the coach just says go play. And for Mason and Neuvert, the problem here is that both of these guys can't seem to stay healthy when it comes down to it. Last year, various injuries to both of them or illness that allowed the other guy to get into the net, and when the other guy got in there, they played well. So it was a fortunate situation in the sense that both of these guys stepped up in key times when the other guy was either not playing well or not healthy. But on the flip side of things, if someone can't stay healthy, then you can't just say, hey, we're going to give you the number one job and here's 65 games. You got to do your end of the bargain. One, you got to play well, and two, you got to stay healthy. You're no good if you can't stay healthy. And right now, Neuvert, in his case, he's doing exactly what he's done his whole career, and that's, getting injured at inopportune times for himself as far as his career is concerned. It's unfortunate because he's a talented guy, and if he could just stay healthy, maybe he'd have a chance to be a number one guy and make good money on a big contract. But it's frustrating when you see a guy that has talent that can't put it all together in that case. And for Mason, if he can stay healthy, his size and athleticism is there. But at times, he's had some slip-ups, whether it's with injury or poor play. But I think he's a guy that would benefit more from having a coach say, hey, here is 65 games, as opposed to having to battle it out. I'm not so sure that everybody's made out for that type of competition. I think Mason's more the guy that would like to have that 65 games handed to him.
While we're on the topic of goalies, I saw Michael Leighton won a game the other night for the first time in like 6 years. You think you can go back in there and help someone out for a game?
I couldn't help anybody out. I'm actually dreading the alumni game that I got to play in January. It was good to see. Michael is really, he's toured the world since he left here in Philadelphia. He's been to Russia. He's been to the minors. And he continues to play. And you got to have respect for a guy that is not willing to give up on his dream of playing, and he enjoys playing the game. And truth be told, he's been a really, really good American Hockey League goaltender. If you look at his career numbers and what he's done in the American Hockey League, he's really had a nice career as far as that's concerned. Unfortunately, I think at the NHL level, it's never really panned out over the long haul, although he did have a nice little run here in Philadelphia. But yeah, he's still hanging on and showing that guys in their mid-30s can still play goal from time to time, although once you get to 40, it becomes even more difficult.
Brian Boucher, Inside the Glass, NHL studio analyst, former Flyers goalie. Now, I promised you 10 minutes, Brian, so we'll stick to our time, but Woonsocket, Rhode Island native, and I will wrap up with the event that you're going to tonight, the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame induction, and there's a man, Bill Belisle, going in there that you have a personal connection to. Please tell our listeners about tonight's program and why Bill Belisle means so much to you.
Yeah, Bill Belisle was my high school hockey coach, and he's one of the main reasons why I made it to the National Hockey League. And if you if you could really do some research and see what he's been able to do at my old high school, Mount St. Charles Academy in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. We hold a national record for consecutive state championships at 26. He's pumped out numerous Division I college hockey players, and on top of that, NHL players, guys like myself, Brian Lawton, who was a first overall pick in 1983, Brian Berard, who was a first overall pick in 95. That's 2 U.S.-born first overall picks in the National Hockey League. And I mean first overall in the whole NHL draft coming out of Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Matthew Schneider, Garth Snow, Keith Carney, Paul Gay, a former Flyer draft pick in the mid-'80s. Dave Capuano, the brother of Jack Capuano, he was a third-round pick of Vancouver. The list goes on and on. I mean, what he was able to do at that school and what he did for players like myself, I'm indebted forever for what he's done. The only question that I have is what took so long for him to finally get the recognition from USA Hockey to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's been everything to all the guys that have gone through that school and taught me how to compete, taught me how to be a man. I can't say enough. I'm so happy for him. I'm excited to get down there tonight. It's at the Marriott in Philadelphia and see him get inducted, as well as Craig Janney, and they're also honoring the 1996 U.S. World Cup team that won the inaugural World Cup. So it's going to be a fun night. I'm so happy for Coach Belisle. Can't wait to get down there.
Really cool stuff. Brian Boucher here, and, of course, the Flyers win last night. They'll play Ottawa tomorrow, trying to make it 3 in a row. They haven't been able to put that streak together. We'll see if this one helps them get 3 in a row. Brian Boucher here on the Sports Bash. Thank you, Brian. We appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for having me. Have a great day.